A horrifying shooting at the Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, has been bringing up some really uncomfortable subjects regarding transgenderism and pronouns and things like that. And we're going to talk about that. So you've probably heard about the shooting by now. Houston police on Monday identified the woman who opened fire Sunday at Lakewood Church. That's Joel Osteen's church. As 36-year-old Janice Moreno, Conroe resident whose anti-Semitic writings and conflicts with her ex-husband are being investigated as possible motives for the shooting. Investigators said Moreno entered Pastor Joel Osteen's Houston megachurch shortly before the start of a Spanish language service and immediately started shooting an AR-15 style rifle in the hallway, prompting two off-duty law enforcement officers to return fire. Moreno died in the firefight, while her 7-year-old son, who she brought to the scene, suffered a gunshot wound to the head. A 57-year-old man was also shot in the hip. Now, before I go any further, this next paragraph, the 7-year-old remains in critical condition and is fighting for his life, Houston police said. There's actually an apparent picture that this person posted. They think that this is the child involved. Please pause the video, say a prayer for the whole situation, but especially pray for this child. Oh, absolutely awful. But this has been sparking a lot of debate, a lot of controversy, and they're saying right here that Moreno's motive remained under investigation on Monday, though they disclosed details that pointed to a possible religious and domestic motive. Now, there's a lot of debate that's been coming out of this, but some of it has been very, very strange. Some of it has been because of things like pronouns and stuff like that. Apparently, this is like a trans person, or maybe this woman identified as a man in the past, or I don't know. Honestly, I'm not even sure if this is a man who identified as a woman, or I don't really know. It's kind of murky. I'm seeing both things online, but notice the debate that's happening here. And the reason why I'm covering this, you'll see why, but the reason why I'm covering this is because these arguments, these debates are, I think, in a very real way, fueling the fire of all this stuff that's going on. This is from the Libs of TikTok account, like a conservative account online. Leftist activists are already coming to the defense of the trans Texas church shooter. They're shifting the blame onto us and claiming that this is the consequence for criticizing radical trans ideology. Expect to see the media follow a similar pattern. They did that with other cases of trans terrorism. Now notice this. This is a post from Chaya Rychik, who runs Libs of TikTok, and notice what they said. Have you tried not antagonizing people to the point they snap? Have you tried not antagonizing people to the point they snap? So this person is essentially saying if you didn't antagonize trans people, they would never do things like this. Again, remember the Nashville one that happened last year, which was a brutal, horrifying, makes my stomach sick every single time I think about it, one. And that was done by a trans person. And when they released the manifesto, and it had to do with that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, they posted on this, and notice what this person replies. Stop attacking them. And I haven't liked this. So this is like this is the screenshot. Stop attacking them and they wouldn't have to fight back. Seems simple. You met a group who isn't going to sit back and take your pathetic attacks. Now, this is like from some no-name account. This could be for some troll online, right? This is from some no-name. You notice this? Not a real name, right? This person is hiding behind anonymity. And a lot of people do this. They talk behind anonymity. And who knows, maybe it's a Russian bot or something like that. But either way, people do kind of say this stuff. Notice this is a tweet actually that went up today. This is February 13th. I'm going to try to upload this one February 14th. This is a tweet that went up today, February 13th. To be trans in America is to be hunted. We are such a minority. A lot of people literally don't believe we exist. The people closest to us can feed us to the wolves if they ever get mad at us. And it's so easy because we're hunted to begin with. Marginalization takes a huge toll. I used to be an outgoing and jovial person trying to make friends anywhere I could. Several years later, being publicly trans, I'm scared to talk to anyone beyond superficiality. I don't trust people because I know what they can do to me if they don't like me. There's a million ways to frame a trans woman as problematic or someone to be shunned, and people do. It's so easy to hit her like a piñata for a little bit of social gain, and she can't hit back. People know that, and they act like it. Now, the thing I'm going to comment on is, where does this come from? Where does this come from? Notice what's happening right now. There's actually debate about this shooting regarding the shooter's pronouns. Look at this. and wokeness put, Houston PD ran an entire investigation to figure out which pronouns to use for the shooter at the Lakewood church.
So she utilized both male and female names, but through all of our investigation to this point, talking with individuals, interviews, documents, Houston Police Department reports, she has been identified this entire time as female, she, her, and so we are identifying her as Jency Moreno, Hispanic female.
So they're kind of upset about it. If you look in the replies, again, people are super upset about it. Look at another comment on this. So glad to see the Houston police focus on the important things like which pronoun to use for the mentally ill Texas church shooter. Yeah, what's nice actually about some of the analysis I've seen on this is most people agree that this is primarily because of mental illness. So I am glad that the conversation is centering more around mental illness. We got to do more in this country to fix our mental illness issues. That shouldn't even be like a political statement at all. There's so many root problems, or so many problems that we have, that the root cause is mental illness. And to ignore that is just crazy to me. But look at these pronoun wars. Again, I'm calling them pronoun wars. Look at like this post, for example. If someone shoots and kills a bunch of people, I truly don't care what their pronouns are. If they're offended because they were misgendered or mispronounced or whatever kind of woke ideology came through, then maybe they shouldn't have opened fire on a crowd of innocent people. We've turned into a society that caters to criminals and leaves the good, innocent people out to fend for themselves. We've lost our way as a country. Look at this other post here. While we argue about whether it's ever acceptable to use female pronouns for men, a reminder that women in prison can have their sentences extended for failing to do so. People that choose to do so out of courtesy do so from a place of privilege. And basically, that's just an article from the Telegraph where a justice minister made that claim and some elaboration on it. But again, a post like this one that I just read and this one that I just read, this is part of the evidence why this person here, Stacy, says to be trans in America is to be hunted. We're such a minority. A lot of people believe we don't exist. And part of the evidence that I've heard from trans people that I say that they do not exist is because I don't use the pronouns that they want me to use. Someone is trans or whatever, and they're born a man and they now identify as a woman, and they tell me, so therefore you should say she, you should say her when you refer to me, or I think my pronouns should be they, them, because I don't know which one I am, or I'm in the middle, or whatever it might be, or I am nothing, as some other people say. There's all kinds of variations of this now. The reason why I don't do that is the following. It's not as simple as I just disagree with the practice, though I do on a moral level, though I do on a biblical level, and even to a very real extent societally, I disagree with the practice. It's because myself as a Christian, and that's the position that I hold, I think that when I do that, I lose all credibility. In fact, I've seen this happen in practice. I've seen people use the pronouns of someone who is trans, and then they start to talk about it, and then the trans person goes, so wait, you're okay with this, right? And then the Christian says, well, no, not really. And they go, okay, well then, but you gave me the impression that you were, because you were going along with what I wanted you to call me. This is part of, to participating in my identity, essentially. And if I say something is morally wrong, for me to kind of participate in the practicing of it by acknowledging it as a reality, though I don't believe that can really be possible with someone, that they can actually be a biological man according to every metric, and then essentially feel like they are a woman, and then therefore be a woman, and I have to say that they are a woman, and from some unempirical basis, act that way. Again, I just think I lose the credibility in that kind of a situation. I know Christians that do use pronouns, and from my experience watching that play out, it doesn't help them with establishing their moral credibility or their standing in an argument. If you're saying that something is wrong, if you're saying something should not be done, why would you, in some kind of a verbal way, take part in that, support that? And I think that's what people are doing when they use pronouns. Now, I also go out of my way when if I know that someone is real big about them being called the right pronouns, I go really out of my way to just not use pronouns at all. I've said someone's name 4 times in a sentence because I don't call them, if someone is a woman but they say that they're a man, and it's really a sensitive issue to them, I'll just call them by their name. And if I'm talking about them, I'll just speak about them by their name. I will say, Jim doesn't like to go to the movies because Jim thinks that the movie theater is disgusting. Maybe that sounds ridiculous. I do it. I think I can keep my own standing in that kind of a situation and avoid maybe some conflict that I don't want to have with someone and kind of ruffle feathers I don't want to ruffle. Again, maybe people see that and say, Marco, that's absolutely cowardly or something like that. I disagree completely, but that's why I don't do it. But the frustrating part to me, and again, I've heard Christians make the argument for the contrary why you should use someone's pronouns. And they say it's because, well, it might cause someone who's already having a hard time emotionally spiral down even further, knowing that you personally don't accept them. Or you, again, I don't even like that language, but you personally don't agree with their action. Again, someone who is transgender doesn't agree with my moral standing, my moral action. Why isn't it a two-way street? For one, that's always the question that I wonder about. But also, I know people, I mean, everyone I know that has a good head on their shoulders, if there are other people in their life that don't accept that, it doesn't, because people say if you don't use pronouns, it's going to turn into this kind of stuff. It's going to turn into the shootings. It's going to turn into whatever else it might be. If someone has a decent, even remotely decent, good head on their shoulders, and they're not dealing with serious mental illness, if some random person like Marco doesn't acknowledge that and doesn't believe in their moral stance and doesn't believe with them that they are who they feel that they are inside, that's not just going to derail or spiral someone's life all the way down to the toilet. If their head is right, if they're not dealing with severe mental illness. And again, that's part of the reason why with someone who I know is struggling a lot with that kind of stuff, I just don't use pronouns at all. Again, I just don't see it as a worthwhile battle. I also don't see, again, as worthwhile to use someone's pronouns that they have when that's not what they really are. I don't see that as worthwhile for me to do as a Christian for my stance in this great debate that is happening with all of this. So I just avoid it altogether so I could have the best of two worlds in that scenario. But I want this to be absolutely clear. Someone using the wrong pronouns or something like that is never a justification for violence, never a justification for the horrible stuff that is happening. And for some of the people that are perpetuating this violence, that's their reasoning for it. It's because you don't accept it. Again, I think that is just absolute mental illness. And again, that's what most people are agreeing on here. And I think a lot of the trans people that I talk to and that I know would even agree with that. That to go that far, it's just pure mental illness at that point. So I think for starters, we can rally around that. We should rally around mental illness. We should rally around, let's figure out what in the world is causing this and how we can solve these things. I think even people who are conservative and don't believe in the government having their hand in all kinds of stuff should be able to agree that the government does have an obligation to solve this problem, to fix it at least, to address a lot of the root causes for this. On both sides of the aisle, people should be able to agree on this. But to all my Christian brothers and sisters, to people who are on my side, I want us to think about this soberly. Again, this isn't such a simple issue. We can have compassion and truth at the exact same time with people. We can help lead people to Christ and not just tell them all the ways that they are falling short of Christ. Again, I veered off a little bit from the actual shooting that happened, but the shooting has just brought back conversations that happen regardless of shootings or not, which is whether or not Christians should say people's pronouns, whether or not Christians should go along with this and pretend like they agree with it when they really don't. I don't think Christians should do that. So what do you think about this? Am I wrong about the pronouns thing? If you're a Christian, what do you think about pronouns and the use of pronouns and things like that? Should you use someone's preferred pronouns or what? Again, what do you do in that kind of a situation? I'm really curious about this. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I say I don't use them and I should. I really am curious to hear whether or not I should. I'm honestly open to it. But from where I sit right now, I don't see how that is a good thing for me to do in this situation, especially and obviously totally in light of the Bible. But I love you very much. God bless you. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, comment on the video, and consider supporting me on Patreon, this podcast here, just to make it better in every single possible way. I love you very much. See you next time.